Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin Edwards. Thank you for joining me for the podcast where personal stories can have a global impact. As you heard in the intro, my guest today is Adriene Caldwell, author of Unbroken, Life Outside the Lines. Adriene, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Melvin. It's a privilege to be here with your audience and with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So before we get started, we're going to talk about some pretty sensitive topics. So, Adriene, if you don't mind giving the trigger warnings for people who
Certainly. So, the trigger warnings do include the sexual assault of a young girl, the drowning death of a child, emotional and physical abuse, extreme poverty, mental illness, homelessness, horrifically abusive foster care, bulimia, drug and alcohol addiction, pedophilia, death, suicide, and incest.
That's a long list.
It's a very long list.
Long list. Okay, so let's get right into it. And I will try to be sensitive to everything that you've experienced today. And by the way, I'm sorry you've experienced that. I want to get that on the record.
Thank you. Thank you. I would not change a single thing that's happened to me. I would not be who I am today if I had not gone through those experiences. As horrifying as they were, they have built me.
Okay, so let's start talking about that. So again, your memoir is called Unbroken, Life Outside the Lines. And you begin
That's correct.
The book with a deeply traumatic childhood. So what was the hardest moment for you in deciding to tell that story publicly?
It has taken over 4 years for me to write this book. There have been many times where I have needed to just set it down and just leave it for a little bit. And I like to say that, like, I am expert level on repression and compartmentalization. Like, each one of those traumas I packed into a metaphorical box that went on a metaphorical shelf behind a metaphorical door. It was nicely, neatly tucked away. And writing Unbroken has forced me, as I chronicle the events of my life from early childhood to adolescence, it forced me to take each of those boxes down and to open it and to inspect it, the 360-degree view. And it wasn't a single moment. It was periodically throughout the journey.
All right, so why did you title your book Unbroken?
I love this question. So, Unbroken, if you look it up in the dictionary, there are actually two meanings for it. There is one sense where not broken, hasn't been damaged, hasn't been destroyed. So an idea of being whole. The other definition, and you'll appreciate this being from Texas, like I am, when you think of breaking a horse, how you have to break their spirit in order for them to be able to ride them. That's another definition of unbroken. It's untamed, unbroken, spirit not broken. So Unbroken, I originally started with broken people. And the more I thought about that title, the more I decided that no, that's not accurate. I'm not broken. And that's when I went to Unbroken. And Life Outside the Lines, I like to think of just a sheet of paper with a drawing on it and crayons, and then just going outside the lines. Because my life and my experiences, they don't fit neatly into a picture or a drawing. My experiences have crossed the threshold of beyond strange so many times. If this was art, I would definitely be in the contemporary / abstract.
All right. So when you first sat down to start writing this book, did you anticipate how emotionally intense it would be?
Absolutely not. No. I did not know what I was getting myself into. And I'll even admit that if I had to do it all over again starting today, I don't know that I'd be able to do it or be willing to do it again. So it was brutal, and to anyone contemplating writing their story, I would really encourage them to make sure that they have the support in place there, whether it be a therapist or a best friend or a partner. Make sure that you have your support network in place. If you're writing your story and being authentic and real, you're going to feel very vulnerable, very exposed, and you'll want to make sure that you've got the guardrails in place, just in case you go off the rails emotionally.
I couldn't even imagine trying to do this without that support. It's just
Absolutely not.
all right. So, did writing about your past change your life now, either in your relationships, the way you see yourself, or just day to day life?
It's been cathartic. It really has. I yeah, I don't want to backtrack on my previous answer, but it did force me to look at each trauma and to really explore it and to relive it. So, but I've come out the other side of that now, and I'm in a place that's different, very different from where I was when I started it.
And unfortunately, you've been through multiple types of trauma. As you mentioned in the beginning, there was abuse, neglect, foster care, the death of, I'm not sure who died, so you can tell me about that. How did you get through those times?
Well, one foot in front of the other. As a child, there were no other choices. Really, if I were to boil it down, it really is as simple as that. It was either endure or die. And later in my life, in my teenage years, and even my early 20s, I attempted suicide on multiple occasions. I don't even know how many. One time was during a blackout from drinking. I was blackout drunk, and I attempted to kill myself. That's how desperately I was seeking to end the pain, to end my suffering. It was awful.
What's your earliest memory of being abused?
Of being abused. Okay. My mother was schizophrenic and physically abusive. And my grandfather moved the family to Houston and then abandoned them for the mistress that he had on the side for the past 20 years. So with him leaving, it forced my mother and her 3 siblings to go out and start working. My mother had just recently graduated high school. She had 2 siblings who were still in school. One of them left school to work to help support the family. And my grandmother stayed home and watched me during the day while her 4 children or 3 children and went to work. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table and my mother insisting that I have beans with every meal. And my grandmother intervened and got her to, we're not going to do that. Adrienne, you don't have to eat the beans. And then to my mother, Marigold, you know, she eats enough beans with lunch and dinner. It's fine. My grandmother intervened, and that's my earliest memory of realizing, okay, my mom is not normal. That she was peculiar and odd. It would take years for me to fully understand that she was schizophrenic and I mean literally going insane. It began her not many people know that schizophrenia develops in your late teens and early 20s. So as I was growing, so was her illness. But that's my first memory of realizing that, wait a minute, something's off. So
So I saw on your website one of the documents that a letter your mom left, or your mom wrote when she left you kids to be whatever she left you to be. What was that situation? How old were you then?
sure. I was 12, and she was relinquishing her parental rights so that my best friend's family, I was in the 6th grade, so that my best friend's family could adopt my brother and me. And my aunts and uncles, they were incredibly mad at my mother for giving us, her children, to strangers, is how they put it. But I was very excited because I came from abject poverty. We were living in government housing, just truly poor. And my best friend, they were upper middle class, affluent, luxury house, cars, you name it. So I was going from, the ghetto to, a 5,000 square foot house. And my mother had beaten me before. That was the actual incident that caused Children's Protective Services to get involved. So yeah.
Okay. So I mentioned the letter your mom wrote. Why was it important for you to include so many private documents in your book and on your website?
Well, I wanted to. So the documents come from my Children's Protective Services, my CPS case file. And I included the documents as, I don't want to say proof, but verification, if you will. Because what I claim is pretty outrageous. And I did it for that reason. I also did it because one day I'd like my book and those documents to be used in curriculum for students of psychology or counseling, specifically studying early childhood trauma. So the book, Unbroken, is the first-hand account of the traumas that I experienced. And then the companion text, which is a separate book with all of the documents provided. It's the clinical component. It's the opinions and views from the psychiatrists, the counselors, the therapists, the foster mother. So I really did it for those reasons.
So when did you go into foster care?
I was 12 years old.
So that when you went to your friend's house, that's foster care.
Yes.
Okay.
They had to go through, and I should clarify that after 9 months, I was kindly evicted. I did not know how to behave or how to act when I was with their family. I had never been in that kind of environment before. And at 12 years old, coming from the life that I had already endured, witnessing a sexual assault, seeing a girl drown, my grandmother dying at 7 years old, losing my guardian, my protector, as well as having feelings of abandonment by her not being there. So I stayed there for 9 months. They kicked me out, and I went to go live with an aunt and uncle, but they kept my brother. And he was adopted. He was 4 years old at the time. So it was much easier for him to go into their home and learn the social norms and customs and to integrate it. He was a child, a very young child. And I wasn't as malleable. I had already been damaged.
So did you and your brother have the same father?
No.
Were either of the men involved in your lives at all?
No.
Have you ever met your biological father? Are you trying to find your father?
No. My biological father is deceased.
Okay, so we'll move on from there. All right, so how do you define healing today? Is it a destination, a journey,
Healing.
or something else?
Healing is cyclical for me, and I will always be healing. I don't see it as some endpoint destination. Once I get here, I'm going to be healed and everything's great. I don't view it like that. It's an evolutionary process. Almost like you could compare it to a snake shedding its skin. That as it grows, as it thrives, it needs to shed off these layers. And that's healing for me. That I am still healing, and I fully expect that I will be healing for the rest of my life. Now, just because healing is taking place doesn't mean that I'm not already in a good place. I am now, if you took my life now and showed it to the 15-year-old Adriene, the 15-year-old Adriene would call you a liar. Because there is no way that she could believe my life could be as good as it is today. And it has been a very long, very dark road, but I am in a wonderful place now. But the healing is ongoing. I'm not sure if are you familiar with TMS? Transcranial magnetic stimulation.
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
Okay. So basically, when you have trauma in your life, it damages the brain. Biologically, physiologically, it damaged the brain. The neural connections become damaged, and at some points, they even wither and die. So what this process does is it stimulates the brain so that those neural pathways will regenerate and reconnect. So I found out today that my insurance had approved my request for TMS therapy. So, my journey for healing is ongoing. I feel that I have utilized the therapist, the psychiatrist, the cognitive behavioral therapy. I feel like I've gotten as much out of that as I can, and I'm looking for different ways to continue to grow and to continue to heal. So I'm hoping that it will be this. And I found out about it inadvertently. I was at my med spa, and for some reason they decided to purchase a machine. And they said, hey, if you want to try it out, we'll give you a free session. And I was like, sure, why not? And the only thing I noticed after the session was when I was sitting on the couch watching Netflix, if something sad came on, tears would come out of my eyes. And it was the strangest thing because emotionally, I wasn't connected to it. But I think it must have been my subconscious or something. But I would start crying when I saw anything sad on TV. So, yeah.
Wow, that leads into my next question. At the beginning, we talked about certain trigger warnings for the listeners out here today. But what about you? If you read your own book or listened to this episode, would there be anything that would be triggering to you?
Yes. My book is deeply triggering, which makes it very challenging to put it out into the world. And it is hard for me to pick it up and to reread it because it is so visceral. I don't pull any punches in this book. So it is difficult. It is triggering. And what I do to pull myself out of it, sometimes I can just, sit on the couch, watch Netflix. But there are other times where I'm more deeply triggered that I either have to go do something physical, go work out, go take a walk. The alternative that I found that helps me is putting on happy music. Even though I'm not feeling happy at the moment, putting it on, and that helps me regulate. So, yeah.
So, do you have your own family now?
I do. I am married. My daughter is 20 years old. Her father, my previous husband, he passed suddenly when she was 10 years old. I was 35. I am remarried. He's an incredible husband, stepfather, man. Yes. We do not have biological children together. He has a son from a previous marriage, and then there is my daughter, our daughter.
So, when you became a mother, how did you learn how to be a better mother than the one you had?
How did I learn to be a better mother? I really just did the best that I could, and I always when I would mess things up with my daughter, even when she was younger, when I knew that I didn't handle something correctly or as well as I could have, when I had growth, I would apologize to her. And one day, my coworker overheard a conversation where I was apologizing to my daughter. And after I was off the phone with her, he said, "You apologize to your children?" And I was like, "Yeah, don't you?" And he was like, "No, absolutely not." And I was like, "Well, if you don't apologize, then you are teaching them that you are always right, and then you have to be always right." It was shocking to me that he felt that way. But I have an Aunt Rose, and I like to say that God didn't give me a mother and a father. He gave me two mothers. So she's been in my life now since my early 20s, and growing up she was sporadically off and on. But yeah, she was my second mother. So when my mother relinquished rights, I did go briefly to live with her after my best friend's family kicked me out. That's where I was sent. And then that wasn't working. At that point, I was 13, truly traumatized, and just there were factors I couldn't stay there. And that's when I went to a foster home with a horrifically abusive woman. In the book, I call her the witch from hell, TBFH. So, yeah, I'm keeping it PG for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, what happened with the child drowning? Who was the child, and what happened in that situation?
Sure. So, my mother being schizophrenic, we couldn't live independently. She didn't make enough money. She couldn't hold down a regular job long enough to be able to support us to live independently. So, I just mentioned my Aunt Rose. She's married to my mother's brother, so Uncle John. We did live with them periodically. We also lived with another aunt and uncle. And my mother and I were living with them. It was a Houston summer, which you know all about.
Very
just
hot.
brutal
Very hot.
heat. Very hot. And the humidity. So everybody in the apartment complex was in the pool. And I don't know if you've heard of this, but in my family, they said that you can't go swimming for 30 minutes after you eat. It's this old wives' tale.
Yeah, my mom.
But they believed it. Okay. Well, then I was lucky to only get 30 minutes. No, I was sitting on one of the lounge chairs waiting for my time to be up. And I was just looking out over the pool, and it was full. You couldn't go more than 2 feet without bumping into another person. It was like the entire complex was in the pool that day. And I noticed a girl. She was face down near the wall of the pool, and her hair was just floating all around her head. And I saw that, and I just stared for a few seconds, and it dawned on me that it occurred to me that she's not moving at all, except with the movement of the water. She's not moving. And it went click. She's drowned. Not drowning, she drowned. And at the same time that it clicked for me, I recognized the situation. My uncle, he saw her. He jumped in, he dragged her out, and he started doing the CPR and the mouth-to-mouth, trying to resuscitate her. But it was too late. She was already deceased. So I was, I think, 8 or 9 when I saw this. So and nobody even really talked to me about it. There was never a conversation about it. It's like all things in my family. All the bad things just get pushed under the rug. So to this day, there's never been a conversation about what happened, or did it impact me? What was it like? That was never a part of my family's dynamic.
Did you ever want to talk about it?
No, but I probably should have, because it helped confirm the belief that I had that little girls were not safe. I grew up with fear, palpable fear in me, almost my entire time that I from 5 years on. I was scared. I was scared of other people. I was scared of the world. I had witnessed the sexual assault of a young girl, my best friend at the time. I witnessed it. I was very nearly the victim. And so seeing the girl drown, it just confirmed for me everything that I had previously suspected about the world. So I was scared for pretty much my entire childhood and adolescence.
That makes me sad. No child should have to go through that, should have to live that way. That's not what childhood is about. Again,
I agree.
I'm sorry what happened to you. It breaks my heart.
Thank
So what?
you.
How did you decide what to put in your book and what to leave out?
I put it all in. Everything. In fact, I received feedback that Adriene, there are times where in the book you look like you're the villain. And I responded, that's because I was. I was not always a good person. I made bad decisions that were deeply hurtful to people and did things and engaged in behavior that it went beyond just destructive for me. It was destructive for other people. And they told me that I should change it so that I could be the hero of my story. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. That's not the truth. And Unbroken, Life Outside the Lines, it's my truth. And I'm not going to color it or shade it in a way that presents me better to the world, because I wasn't better. I did those things. I made those mistakes. I hurt those people.
Wow. So, what were the hardest parts for you to write about in the book?
The pedophilia, that was probably the hardest thing. And my best friend's father, so 6th grade, that best friend, later he became my white knight. And it's not a clear-cut situation for me. So, yeah. I think we can just leave it at that.
Okay. So that family adopted your brother, you said.
Correct.
Excuse me. When was the last time you saw your brother?
It's a painful question for me. The last time I saw my brother was probably 2 years ago. Excuse me. Was probably 2 years ago. He let me know that he no longer wanted contact with me at all, of any kind. And I asked the reason, because up until the point he was 4 years old, my actively schizophrenic, crazy, physically abusive mother wasn't raising him. I was. And then when we moved in with my best friend's family, there was the wife, Mrs. Smith, the mother. But that was one of the things that I didn't know how to deal with. I didn't know how to not be his mother, how to step back and let Mrs. Smith take over that role. And I, later on, as I lived with my aunt and uncle, and then in the foster home from hell, I visited him monthly. One weekend a month I got to visit him. And then once I was an adult, when I lived in San Antonio, he actually came out to visit my daughter and me. And when I moved back to Houston, which is where he's based, I invited him to every single one of my daughter's violin concerts, her symphonies, and he attended. So, and when he got married, which was a surprise, unexpected event, my husband and I, we took him out for dinner, a celebration dinner. And my niece was born. He got married, he had a daughter, and I reached out asking to meet her. And at some point in that exchange, I'm not sure what exactly I did wrong, but he let me know that I was no longer welcome in his life. So, yeah, that's painful for me.
So, what do you hope readers take away from your book? What lessons?
That what they are living in right now, this present moment, it's not going to be this way forever. That the decisions they make today are going to affect the life that they have tomorrow. And that's a metaphorical tomorrow. And for any of the teenagers who are maybe in foster care or hear this or in really bad home life situations, I would just share the message that your life will be changing. You will have the opportunity to change your life in just a few years, and it will go faster than you think. And you will be an adult and in charge of making decisions that can create a life for you that you are proud of, that you love. And for the teenagers, it could mean going into the military. It could mean going into a vocational school. In the state of Texas, if you're a ward of the state until you're 18, you can go to any public Texas university with no fees or tuition. College is free if you're a foster kid. And it's heartbreaking, but only 3% of foster youth go on to attend college. It's free, and only 3% take advantage of it. So hope and the idea that there is change and it's coming much sooner than you think. And with that is opportunity. And that you are responsible for your own decisions and for your own life. And to accept that. So, yeah.
Has your own identity shifted over time, either as a woman, a mother, or a survivor?
Oh, God. Going back to the snake metaphor, shedding skin and evolution, I have been variations of me. And honestly, I was not a good person for the first 20 so years of my life. I made bad decisions and I hurt people. And I've spent the last 20 years trying to be a good person, trying to make up for it, trying to give my daughter the life that I didn't have, trying to engage, to have a profession that I could be proud of, to an opportunity to make amends as well. I have reached out to most of the people and apologized for my behavior. So that was growth as well.
Okay, so looking back or looking ahead, what are some of your biggest goals personally for the next like 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. Ooh, 5 to 10 years. Well, I have rheumatoid arthritis. It developed when I was 35 years old. So the next 5 to 10 years for me and what I want out of them are probably going to look a lot different than another person, another 46-year-old's view. I'm 46 now. I want to be healthy as I can be. And that means that I need to make decisions now. I need to exercise. I need to walk. I need to be more physical than I am. I am medically disabled. And as I mentioned, if there is a book number two, this will go in book number two. I am medically disabled, so it's challenging for me. I struggle with things that other people don't even think about, like going to the grocery store. So being healthy, maintaining my independence, being able to leave the house and go someplace on my own, which at points in the past 11 years I've not been able to do. And I am married to the most incredible man, no offense,
Nope.
but I
I'll
am
take second
married
place in
to,
this.
thank you, Melvin, thank you. He's incredible, just an amazing stepfather, an amazing husband, one of the best gift givers I've ever known. For our first anniversary, which if you look up the anniversary milestones and the years and what they correspond to, year number one was paper. And he had one of our wedding photographs. He sent it to an artist in Italy and they sketched it. It's a charcoal sketching of that photograph. And that was the very first anniversary present. How do you top that? That's like amazing. And I
That's
have it
tough. That's
hanging.
tough.
Yeah. And they kept going. The next year, I think it was Wood. He had the lyrics to our wedding song, At Last. He had the lyrics inscribed on a canvas in a spiral. And so now I call it the Hall of Matrimony because there's one more, which is he had the night sky on the day that we got married, that night sky where the stars were, the constellations. He had that put on a canvas and then framed. So I have those three hanging in the Hall of Matrimony. So yeah, and listeners, yeah, I know, right? I like, is there a, best anniversary gifts ever website? Because, I mean, he just nailed it. So, yeah, I have, despite my health situation, I have an amazing life. I really do. My daughter is healthy and going to university. My husband's amazing. And I'm putting out Unbroken so that hopefully I can help at least one person. I want to change, and I mean profoundly, deeply, truly change one person's life. And if I can do that, then it'll all have been worth it.
Well, that's definitely a good way to end this episode because I was pretty depressed talking about your life, and this sounds like, and not that it's the ending, but the happy ending, extended ending process that you took.
Absolutely.
So that makes me happy for you. So I don't
Yes.
know your husband.
Yes.
I don't know you except for the time we spent today. But tell your husband I said he's a good guy. Give him a high five or something for me. Tell him I appreciate what he's doing.
Okay. Fist bump. I'll do a fist bump from
There you
Melvin.
go. Fist bump. So my guest today has been Adriene Caldwell. Adriene, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Melvin, thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here with your audience and with you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
So, anyone who's interested can find Unbroken, Life Outside the Lines at any major book retailer, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. And as you mentioned in this episode, the documents from my CPS case file are available online at unbrokencaldwell.com. And anyone who would like to reach me directly, I am available on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Unbroken Caldwell. So, thank you very much.
That's good information. And I recommend getting the book. All right.
Thank you, Melvin.
Please go to my website at podcastreallife.com for more information about my guest and the things we discussed today, including a link to her book. That's it for today's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another chance to learn from each other. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.